Hey there, today we're going to go over the entire Drowning Labyrinth quest in D2, start to finish, including every step you need to take, in order, every hidden worm location, yada yada yada. Completing this quest will give you both the Finality's Auger exotic catalyst and the ability to focus Sundered Doctrine weapons, which is great. If you've been keeping up with this quest every week and you just need the new secret stuff in week 3 of this time-gated quest, you can skip ahead to the timestamp indicated on your screen now. Otherwise, let's start from the beginning. You get the Drowning Labyrinth quest from Ikora Ray at the tower, and your first step is to beat the Sundered Doctrine dungeon. So go ahead and do that. Step 2 is to pick up the hidden report on your findings and enter their proposed code into the pyramid machinery in their base camp. Launch the dungeon from the very beginning and head down to the area where Ikora's hidden are hanging out. It is not far from where you spawn in. When you drop down to that first big bridge, just turn around and go inside. Walk over and pick up the report of papers on the table, then head over to the giant code wheel against the wall and enter the following code, one symbol at a time. Savathun, enter, and pyramid, then go ahead and hit the activation button. Savathun will give you a little speech and your quest will update. Now you're on step 3. Find Rolk's experimental hive worms and hunt down a group of dread studying the workings of the pyramid to claim their knowledge. Alright, first up, finding those 3 worms. Head out of Ikora's hidden base camp area over the bridge. Before completely crossing over the bridge though, stop at the very end and then fall down under the bridge to reach a hidden area. Your first hive worm should be right there. Go ahead and activate the worm to have it officially record your progress. Also take note of the symbol on the back wall for later, which is witness. The next worm is found after completing the first encounter of the dungeon. When you're heading towards the second encounter and you reach a wide open area where there's a bunch of dread flying around and a bunch of bridges, the worm will be in this area. Normally you'd wind up crossing over that bridge to get to the second encounter, the one with the little yellow crystal at the end of it. Instead, go over the bridge that is directly to the left of the yellow crystal bridge. It's one of those doors that you have to shoot repeatedly to open. In that room, you'll find the second worm as well as another symbol on the wall, this one being give. The third worm can be found after the second encounter, aka the Shrieker encounter. When you reach the large open room with a bunch of flying dread where you have to angle the lenses and complete 2 beams of light before a glowing door vanishes, the worm will be in that room. If you're facing the worm symbol on the wall on one of those ledges, simply turn left and jump over to that nearby ledge by the crystallized green worm thingy. There should be an activate switch option over there. Hit it and a door will open up just behind the ledge. Head on in and the third worm is there along with a final symbol on the back wall, darkness. Now you have to return to the beginning of the dungeon back to the giant code wheel, but before you do, I strongly recommend that if you're in a fire team while doing this quest, someone on your team holds onto your current checkpoint, i.e. the boss room checkpoint for later. I'll explain why shortly, but yeah, hold that boss checkpoint on a different character, then on your quest completing character, head back to the beginning of the dungeon, head downstairs to the giant code wheel, and type in the code witness give darkness and hit activate. A message about the pyramid shifting should appear. That is normal. Now head through the dungeon like you normally would, but when you get to this room where normally you would go through a little hidden waterfall in order to get to the first encounter, you'll now have to kill a bunch of hive and dread. They'll drop knowledge on the floor, which you should pick up and then bring over to a specific area in this room where you'll stand in a large orange circle to essentially dunk that knowledge into the circle. Keep running around the room, killing enemies, grabbing knowledge when they drop it, then dunking it into the circle until the orange circle is gone. A door will now open up behind where the circle was, and you should head into this new room and hit the activation button on the nearby podium. Your next step in the quest is to just beat the dungeon. If you saved your boss checkpoint from earlier, like I told you to, then this should be really easy. Load up the checkpoint with your homies, beat the boss, and done. And yes, I checked. You don't need to complete the entire dungeon to complete that part of the quest. Just kill the final boss. Alrighty, now we're on the next step, which I believe is step 6, and we weren't able to do it until week 2 of episode Heresy. Kick things off by launching the dungeon fresh and heading back down to the giant code wheel area. You're looking for the latest hidden report, aka a small stack of papers that should be nearby on a desk. Go on over and pick them up. Next, you're gonna have to find 3 new worms hidden throughout the dungeon yet again. The first week 2 worm is before you arrive at the first encounter. When you're right around here, where you jump over this glowing stone and then reach a part where normally you would fall way down through a few holes in the floor, go ahead and take it slow. As you fall through those holes in the floor, look on your HUD for a notification that says second tier initiate. That text means you're near to where the worm is, so don't fall down any further. And don't worry though, if you fall down too far by accident, you can always just jump back up. It just might take a while. Anyway, you'll find an interaction switch in that area against a wall. Flip that switch and a secret door should now open up only a few meters away from you. Head on in and the first week 2 worm should be right there. Oh, and take note of the symbol on the wall, which should be hive. The next week 2 worm is after the first encounter and will be in this grungy green looking sewer area. If you've hit the Indiana Jones boulder puzzle area, turn back because that means you've gone too far. If we pause the footage right here, the worm is behind that wall over where Bife is standing. You actually have to jump up on top of the corner of that wall like so, and then the wall will lower itself, allowing you to access the hidden room. Go get new worm number 2 and take note of the symbol on the wall, which is grieve. The third week 2 worm is after you've completed the second encounter. When you reach a room that looks like this with a giant worm carcass laying on the ground, jump up as you normally would, but then turn around and head down this hallway that is vaguely glowing yellow. There will be a big door in the dark that you have to shoot and open, and worm number 3 is right there. Take note of the symbol on the back wall, which is worm. All right, now head back to the beginning of the dungeon. Again, back to the giant code wheel and enter in hive, grieve, and worm in that order, and something within the pyramid will shift. Now head through the dungeon normally. Again, when you're back where you found the most recent worm, you'll notice that there now are giant hive shriekers in the area. The shriekers won't open up right away. You gotta kill a bunch of hive in the area, so get to work. Eventually, they'll begin to open up one at a time, and you'll be able to kill them, which you should do. Keep killing the hive and the shriekers until you come across this guy, a worm cradle knight who will be somewhere in the area near where you came in. Killing the worm cradle knight will drop a hive worm. Pick up that worm and take it to where I'm showing you now. Oh, and be quick about it because the worm has a timer and he will blow up. You're gonna head up and almost head to the next area of the dungeon like you normally would, but instead jump down here, turn left, and bring the worm all the way to the back of the hallway to a large glowing crack in the wall, and insert the worm into that crack. The wall will explode, and you can now go into a new secret room to activate a podium. Now you should be on the final step of the week 2 section of the quest, which is to just finish the dungeon, so carry on forward to the boss encounter and kill the boss. All right, the next step is now available now that we're on week 3 of Heresy. You should be on step 9 of your quest overall. First up, launch the dungeon and go to the code wheel at the beginning and pick up the new stack of papers, which should be nearby. Now you gotta find 3 new worms. Yay! The first week 3 worm you'll find before reaching the first encounter of the dungeon. In that room with the waterfall with all the hive in it, first kill all the hive in the area to make things easier. Then go ahead and look for a hidden platform which you can find by taking out your ghost. Jump up to that hidden platform and then turn left and head over to that nearby crevice and shoot the hidden door to open it, revealing the first new worm. Take note of the symbol on the wall, which is Guardian. The second week 3 worm is after the first encounter but before the second encounter. In the Indiana Jones boulder falling down the ramp area, you're gonna need to jump all the way up to the top left of that ramp. Be careful to not be crushed by falling rocks. When you're finally up at the top left of the ramp, you'll find a hidden switch. Activate it and the door will open, revealing the second week 3 worm. Take note of the symbol on the wall, which is knowledge. The third week 3 worm is just before the final encounter. Normally, you would shoot this door to go through and reach the boss room, but instead of doing that, turn left and you'll find a stone slab that you need to jump on. Jump on that bad boy, the slab will go down, and the third week 3 worm will be right there. Take note of the final symbol on the wall, which is fleet. Okay, now restart the dungeon again. Go back to the code wheel at the very beginning and enter the code Guardian Knowledge Fleet, and then hit activate. You should see text saying deep within the pyramid, something shifts. Now go through the dungeon like you normally would. After the first encounter, but before the second encounter, when you enter that wide open area where there's a bunch of dread running and flying around, you now need to complete a short puzzle here. Kill the dread and look for a hive knight called a lens bearer. Killing that knight will drop a lens, and be aware you'll have to kill him probably a few times. Anyway, you need to loop the beam of light around the entire structure in the middle, finishing up with one final lens right here to point the beam straight up at the wheel on the structure, which will then open a door into the structure itself. You'll get one final code, but do not restart the dungeon. When you activate the podium in front of the final code, you'll get text saying that the pyramid has shifted again. And even though your next step is to complete the dungeon, again, do not load up a boss checkpoint or restart, simply carry on in your current instance. Your next step is to beat the dungeon. When the final boss is dead, simply stand in front of the giant red door, and all you have to do now is wait. Symbols will appear on the door one at a time, and the door will open up. You'll get some dialogue, head on in, and go to the chest and open it to get the exotic catalyst for Finality's Auger. Last step though, don't forget this part. Go back to the tower and talk to Ikora Ray to officially finish the quest, and apparently unlock the triumph that now allows you to focus gear in the Sundered Doctrine dungeon. GG. Like today's video if it helped you out. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.